Okay. Let's start with a tale of disaster. Earlier this summer, Tesco launched their new Plant Chef Veggie Burger. Like many companies today, Tesco wanted to launch a more sustainable product because they knew how important it was to their brand and to their customers. But Tesco didn't have all the information they needed about this product, which they marketed as better for the planet. They came under fire across the news as the UK regulators, the Advertising Standards Authority, said that Tesco could not substantiate its sustainability claims. The regulators killed the advert, and that product launch did the opposite of what it had intended to do. Instead of elevating Tesco's brand for its sustainability initiatives and attracting those climate-conscious consumers to purchase their new product, this is what consumers saw. Damaging headlines for the product, but more importantly, for Tesco. Over the last few years, stories like Tesco's are becoming increasingly common, with swaths of companies from Boohoo to Brewdog feeling the backlash of their sustainability claims because they do not have the evidence to back them up. This is often referred to as greenwashing. Greenwashing is making environmental claims that are either false, misleading, or exaggerated. All of these companies, like many of you in this room, are trying to be more sustainable because they know that it can drive real business growth. But in doing so, they run the very real risk of greenwashing when they try to take credit, as they rightly should, for the work that they're doing. This is often because they don't have access to reliable or sufficient data or information about the claims that they're making. The sad irony is that when customers find out that these claims are not what they seem, those same companies who had tried to drive growth and positive change are left with a damaged reputation. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Greenwashing, why it happens, and what you can do about it. My name is Katy Svennas, and I'm the VP of Commercial and Sustainability at Sourceful. Sourceful was founded in 2020, and we're on a mission to help brands make more sustainable products at scale. Products that start with their packaging, the first touch point, and a significant contributive emissions, especially for consumer and e-commerce businesses. We do this by working with businesses as a trusted partner to help them solve their challenges when it comes to packaging and its supply chain. We provide them with options, but more importantly, we provide them with information about those options so that they can make the best decision when it comes to their business. I spend my time day in and day out researching packaging products from both the sustainability and commercial side. And some of that research we'll be sharing with you today. But first, I want to spend a bit more time introducing myself because I haven't always spent my time like this. I used to work for an airline. I know some of you may find the fact that I work for an airline particularly surprising because airlines are often seen as some of the worst offenders to climate change. And indeed, the industry has a long way to go. But this airline that I worked at had sustainability as one of its top priorities. And it was trying to find sustainable solutions within the constraints of managing a profitable business model, which is a challenge that I can imagine many of you sitting here today would understand. While working at an airline, there were many sustainability initiatives that we tackled. But I'm going to give an example of a very simple one today. We tried to remove single-use plastic from aboard all of our aircraft. If any of you have been on a flight, this may look familiar. Plastic and packaging everywhere. Food, bottles, amenities, anything you touch, it's wrapped in plastic. So you'll know that this was no easy feat for the airline. But it was something that we could actively tackle right now. And more importantly, it was important for our customers and our brand. So we got to work. We searched far and wide for alternative packaging products. We even hired sustainability consultants to help advise us on what we were finding. And what was it that we found? A really difficult and confusing landscape. On the one hand, we found lots of products that were told to us to be green and better, but when we tried to look under the hood, there was a real mix of information and reliability about those products to really validate what green really meant. The whole experience really left a mark on me, not just because I was personally passionate about the topic, but because I found myself thinking, if the business the size of an airline found this problem challenging with a whole procurement team dedicated to it, how would small businesses even stand a chance? I wanted to dedicate all of my time to solving this challenge. So fast forward a couple years to when I joined Sourceful. Sourceful is doing exactly what I needed when I was working on that initiative at the airline. In fact, we've spent a lot of time researching plastics and plastic alternatives to help our customers. I'm now going to spend the next 5 minutes sharing some of that research with you, research that we've worked on with academics and leading consultants alike. And the results of that research may surprise some of you. It may even shock you. Now, one of the first products that we at Sourceful designed and produced was this one. I have it right here. Now, don't worry, our branding has improved since then. Thank you, Ed. By a show of hands, how many of you here use or have considered using compostable packaging for your product? Yeah. So this may shock you. And why not? It's often marketed as green, as better for the planet. There's a lot of hype around the topic. But here is the full picture. Compostables are not better for the environment, not when it comes to climate change, and we have the data to prove it. As is the case with almost everything, there's good, there's bad, and sometimes there's downright ugly. And compostables are no exception. Compostable material can be up to 2 times worse for climate change than even virgin fossil. Our research into the topic on single-layer bags, to be specific, has found that they can be 1.5 to 2 times worse. I'll say that one more time. Up to 2 times worse than virgin fossil. Our research analyzed a set of materials that represent about 75% of the biodegradable plastic market. We focused specifically on monolayer flexible film as a use case because it's important to decide what function it's being used for when comparing these things. And why did we do this? Because there's a lot of hype around the product, because our customers are asking us for it. But like anything we share with our customers, we want to make sure that we understand the true environmental impact of that product based in data and based in science. We use a science called life cycle assessment, which is the gold standard for quantifying environmental impact when it comes to this space. And we wanted to do this before we passed this bag on to any of our customers. So don't worry, this bag was never sold to customers. We just have it in our warehouse. Now, I'm just going to spend a minute talking a little bit more about business demand, and then I will share the findings of the research. Many of our clients had been drawn in, just as I had been, at the airline with the marketing hype around compostables. It's no wonder, then, that the market for biodegradable plastics is exploding. This is the example of the bag that I just told you about. In fact, the market is expected to threefold between 2021 and 2026. That's an astounding number, given how little we know about the environmental impact of this product. And why is this market growing? Well, the answer is simple. Why is any business market growing? Consumer demand. Climate-conscious consumers are voting with their wallet now. They are trying to take action in any way they can, and that starts with what they buy. So much so that products marketed as sustainable are found to grow 6 times faster than their counterparts. Consumers have seen Netflix's Seaspiracy. They've seen the plastic on their beaches, in their rivers. They've heard about France, Scotland, Australia, an increasing number of countries banning single-use plastic for an increasing number of products. And they like the idea of compostable packaging. I like the idea of compostable packaging. I was one of its biggest proponents. This was like finding out Santa Claus didn't exist for me. We all like the idea of waste disappearing naturally in the environment without any toxic residue, because we all hate the idea of this. And in this way, compostables are exciting. There is a good side of them. In line with their original intent to fight plastic pollution, they do degrade faster than their virgin fossil counterparts. Virgin fossil can take tens to hundreds to sometimes thousands of years. That's why they were made, to have those properties that made them stable. So what's the catch? Where's the risk of greenwashing in what I've shared with you so far? Well, here it is. Compostables are no green bullet. In terms of degradation, in an open environment, so a non-controlled environment, they still take 5 to 20 to sometimes even the same amount of years as plastic because of how they've been created. But more problematic are the greenhouse gases that they emit. Now, greenhouse gases are what contributes to the warming of our planet, to climate change, that I'm sure most of you here today know very much about. In the right physical conditions, these products emit, on average, the same amount as virgin fossils. But here's the twist. These right physical conditions are extremely rare. The infrastructure in most countries is just not there today to handle these compostable packaging products. Does anyone want to guess how many public collection schemes there are for compostable packaging? There are none. There are no public collection schemes for this packaging. In fact, according to the latest summary of evidence by the government in 2021, they shared that any packaging that is collected as part of any organic waste is removed from the process before it gets to composting because they don't want to risk the compost. It is then discarded in landfill or incineration. At this point, you may be thinking, what about home composting? I know people who home compost. Do you know that many people who home compost? Only 3% of homes will be home composting their packaging because they also don't want to risk their own compost with the packaging waste. This means that over half of the packaging ends up in landfill. And that is where the problem lies. In landfill, these compostable packaging emit this nasty little gas called methane. And methane is found to have an impact 34 times higher than CO2, which is the gas often talked about with greenhouse gases. And this is the ugly side of compostables. This is really problematic. In fact, when you run all the numbers for what happens when it emits this gas in landfill, we find that at this end-of-life stage, because we look across the stages in life cycle assessment, compostables emit over 220% more than virgin fossils. This was similar to actually the European Commission's own findings when they looked at flexible food packaging and many other studies on the topic. The European Commission found also an average of 1.5 to 2 times, just as we had. Now, what happens the day that the consumer finds out what I have just shared with you now? All of you who raised your hands about that compostable packaging, I hope that you have the evidence to back up any claims that you're making about it. Customers that believed that your packaging was green and believed in you, finding out the truth, are now going to lose trust in you as a brand, which we all know how very hard we work to build. Now, compostables are just one example of a product that puts you at risk. This could happen with any product that you're marketing as sustainable. And indeed, as the space gets increasingly regulated, customers will increasingly find out the truth. And this is why you are at risk. And this is why you need to make sure you have sufficient data and information about the claims that you're making. Okay, let me start to wrap up now, because I've been speaking a little bit for a while. Why does all of this matter? Why should you as a business care? Why should you be listening to me? Well, I think there are many reasons, but let me just list a few. First of all, greenwashing is counterproductive to climate change, and it's important that I say that. Greenwashing promotes often products that are not good for our environment, and that is slowing the progress that we need to be making in our fight against climate. But more importantly, and relevant for all businesses, is what it means for your brand reputation. Greenwashing sows mistrust, and as the space gets increasingly regulated, those customers will find out the truth. And when they do, they will lose trust in you as a brand and your business more broadly. Now, if you're wondering, okay, that was a good story, what should I be taking away from all of this? Let me put it in 3 simple points for you. Oh, this is what you don't want to see about your business. Number 1, sustainability is a top priority. Any business looking to grow in this century needs to be prioritizing it. Remember, 6 times faster growth. Number 2, greenwashing is a real risk that has real consequences for you. If you're a business trying to be more sustainable and trying to get credit for that, as rightly you should, there is a risk of greenwashing for you. You need to make sure you invest in having reliable data and information, and if you don't, if you fail to do that, there are real consequences. Which leads me to number 3, invest in finding reliable data and information. Minimize your risk by approaching sustainability in the right way. And that right way is based on and backed up by reliable data. In a world where good and bad are changing so rapidly as we get more and more information and data, you need to either invest in building your own capabilities or finding a partner that you can trust, a partner that anchors themselves in science to find you the best products and decisions that you can make today, but also that has the flexibility and sophistication to continue finding that best product, making those best decisions as they continue to evolve in the future. That's what we at Sourceful try to do, and we would love to help you with that.